Welcome, everyone, to the Awakened Mother Show. I am your hostess, Reverend Wendy Silvers, and it is my joy and honor to be with you once again. The Awakened Mother Show is a safe space, a soft place to land where you will hear from mothers, fathers, people that are on the cutting edge of growth and technology and personal growth, those that are willing to really question the status quo. This is a place for open, raw, unfiltered, uncensored dialogues. So pull up a chair, grab your water. I have my molecular water here, and grab a journal because you never know. You might want to write something down. And today, I'm so looking forward to this conversation with Amber Lee Sky. I have watched her on the internet for probably, I want to say maybe 8 years. I don't know if that's exactly the right timing. And I have just so appreciated her honesty, her vulnerability, her willingness to just share from the heart. And I believe that you will really appreciate her as well. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Amber Lee Sky is a mother, a coach, and teacher devoted to helping women reclaim their power, break free from old conditioning, and embody their highest, most liberated selves in life and business. For 19 years, she's led transformational retreats and teacher training programs across 7 countries. She specializes in creating deeply healing, empowering experiences and supports wellness professionals in building location-independent businesses and lives they love. Amen, amen. That is just such a beautiful work that you're doing. So help me welcome Amber Lee to the stage. Hello.
Hey, Wendy. Thank you so much for having me. Grateful to be here.
I'm grateful to have you here. I love the work you do. Our work intersects. I love that. And I know that you're also a dancer, right? You have
Yes,
a dance
yes.
background.
Very much so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
grew up as a dancer and did it competitively for years, danced professionally through college and after that. So yeah, dance is a huge part of my life.
So we were talking about your background as a dancer. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah. So my parents put me in ballet when I was 3, and I danced competitively from like 9 onward. So I was in dance from 3 onward, but competitively in competition statewide and nationwide till I was 18. And then I went to school for dance, performance, and choreography, and then danced professionally after that for about 8 years in San Francisco. And then since then, I've just like kept dancing my life. I take classes. I teach ecstatic dance. I choreograph some things here and there for friends, but yeah, dance is will forever be a big part of my life, I think.
Oh, I bet. I love dance. I started dancing when I was 6. And
Okay.
so I studied dance, and then also I was a gymnast and a figure skater,
Oh wow.
and then I went back to dance, and I love dance. I love it. I would love to find a place where I could go in LA and dance.
Yeah.
And I heard you say exotic dance. Is that like pole dancing
Oh
or
no, I ecstatic dance. Ecstatic dance.
ecstatic?
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of ecstatic. Have you heard of ecstatic dance before?
Oh yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah,
So the
Gabrielle
ecstatic
Roth,
dance, we
right?
just go dance to DJs, and yeah, to me, that's like the sober dance thing to do is like go out and do that. Because I don't go to bars or clubs anymore, so like
Right,
this is like my
right.
form of getting my dance
Yes,
in.
yes. I remember. I remember when I was in college, and I jokingly say that I majored in nightlife, and which I did. And I was, at Studio 54 was, one of my drugs of choice. And so,
Wow.
and I remember the first time that I went dancing without being on any form of drug, and I remember like, wow, this is different. But I had been dancing before, and then I
Yeah.
was dancing after. So it just took a little while. And then it was just so to be able to move your body to the rhythm and the beat, and to just feel the music is really, to me, it's so soothing.
It
It's
is. And it's soothing, and it's also, I think, really grounding, and also a great way to like just express yourself in a way that we can't with words. I think dance is, the wisdom of the body, and the things that we can express somatically through our body are on a different level than what we can just intellectualize and talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's so much I want to talk to you about, which I'm going to just
Yeah.
drop in a little bit, right?
Totally.
Because I don't know if you had this, but being involved in a sport and also being involved in a body sport,
Mhm.
there's a relationship to the body that can be very distorted. For me, it was.
Oh, same here. Mhm.
And doing things and, you know, treating my body in a certain way where
Mhm.
I love you wrote something the other day on one of your Instagram posts that I so identified with.
Mm.
And you said, confusing self development with self abandonment. And I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, it's a yes, yes. Yeah, that has been something I've done a lot in my life, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I remember when I did an inventory, and one of the most glaring character things, maladaptive character behaviors that I had adapted was self abandonment.
Yeah. I
It
feel
was
like
so,
it's something that women, unfortunately, are programmed in this society to do, to self-sacrifice, to self-abandon, to betray themselves, to allow others to cross their boundaries constantly, to be the peacekeeper, the people pleaser, the good girl that just like follows all the rules and fits in all the boxes. And it's like we do ourselves such a disservice by contorting ourselves and trying to fit these really unrealistic expectations that society puts on us, but also like our own internal demands that we have. Cause I'm sure you dealt with this too. If you were figure skating and dancing and doing gymnastics, like there's this inner workhorse in you too that's like, hey, you need to work harder, work faster, you need to be more perfect, you need to, just and you need to look a certain way and weigh a certain thing. And I mean, I battled bulimia for 5 years. I don't know
mm,
if you dealt with eating disorders, but that's a very real and common thing in these worlds because there's such a focus on how your body looks, how it performs, and it becomes less about like the art and the expression of what you're doing and more about what you look like, and it's really
oh,
damaging. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I had disordered eating and very distorted body image and
Mm,
so much self-abandonment around my body. But I had an older brother. He's deceased, but I had an older brother who was so focused on a particular um, woman's body parts.
mm,
And that was like the ideal of what a woman looked like. And if you didn't look like that, you really didn't have any worth or value. And so
mm.
I know for me, my journey has been really reclaiming my worth and value
Yeah.
just for being and
Right.
helping other women and helping parents give that to their children.
Yes. Beautiful. It's such important work. I think that's some of our greatest work as women in this
Yes.
society and with the programming that we're kind of brought into is how do we love ourselves through just growing up and getting older. I mean, just to speak briefly about like just getting older and how every woman seems to be just trying to reverse back their age backwards to look like they're 20 when they're 50 and not do what you want, right? But like there's
Right.
just this
Right.
pressure that is
Yeah.
just so unrealistic.
Oh, I know. I
Yeah.
really understand that. Oh God, it's so true. The other thing that I think is something that I strive to support and help is healing sisterhood.
Yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
know if you have a sister. I didn't have a sister, but
Yeah.
I know a lot of women, of course. And just the wounding around sisterhood and motherhood, that shaming and that behavior that's so harmful that
Yeah.
women do to one another it's something that I've experienced and it's very painful to watch.
Oh, yeah. I'm honestly kind of grateful I don't have a daughter for that reason because I personally went through my own experiences of being bullied and outcast when I was like in elementary school so badly by fellow sisters of mine, fellow friends of mine. Like one of my good friends like turned her back on me and started spreading
Mm.
rumors about me, and I ended up having to leave the school because she was bullying me so badly. I actually changed schools because no one was willing to do anything at the school to like help the situation because it
Wow.
wasn't like physical abuse; it was just like this mental emotional abuse. And so, and then I've experienced, other things like that in adulthood where I'm like, I'm 40 and I'm going through this stuff as a 40-year-old with like this clique of girls here in Austin that it's just bizarre. It's bizarre
Yeah.
how like women don't outgrow it. And yet like they might talk around it like, oh, I am working on my sisterhood wounds and I'm doing XYZ. But really they're still playing out the same patterns that they were when they were like in
Yes.
kindergarten or in high school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And I too, it's so ironic. I too experienced being bullied, and I
Yeah.
know what it's like to be ostracized and teased and all that kind of stuff, and dread going to school. And I remember I was part of the popular kids
Hmm.
until, and so I find myself, and I'll go back to that, but I find myself a lot of times in the between the worlds and the both and.
Ah,
So I was part of the popular kids until I was supposed to be mad at somebody because somebody else in our crowd was mad at this person. And
right.
I very innocently just said, but I'm not mad at her. Why
Right.
do I why why do I have to stop talking to her?
Yeah.
Because she's mad at her.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
it was like you had to be friends with a certain group. And I'm like, no, I want to be friends with everybody.
Everybody. Yep.
And so, and it was such a strange time. And I do have a daughter, and
Mm.
she's actually 24, and I feel so blessed because I feel as though I got to pour into her in a way that my mother was incapable of pouring into me.
Oh, I bet.
and
Yeah, you had the
and to
skill
help
set to help her. Yeah. Mhm.
and to help her. And then it was deeply healing for me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it must have been a healing for you to witness things get resolved almost through your daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how did you end up moving from dance and
Mhm.
performing into coaching and helping, you know,
Yeah.
wellness professionals? I mean, it's sort of like a natural trajectories to go into wellness, but was there
Yeah.
a turning point? Was there something that led you there?
Yeah, I think, for me, I got to a point in my dance career where I was like, this is not sustainable for me. I'm not making the level of income that I want to make, having the lifestyle that I'd like to have. And ultimately had other passions outside of dance. So I fell in love with Pilates. It actually helped me heal a lot of my acute and chronic injuries from dance.
Mm.
So I fell really in love with that method. And I was like, if I can teach this and help people the way that it helped me, like amazing. And I could make decent money doing that. So I went through Pilates certification. I went through yoga certification. I went through holistic nutrition certification. And I kind of got all these different certs and things that I was really passionate about. And then decided like this is a way for me to give back through my passions and do what I really love, which is teach workshops, do one-on-one coaching. I ultimately then got into retreats because I wanted to travel and lead experiences for people that were transformative because I personally love travel. So my
Right.
entire business is really built around my passions and how I could use my passions to help other people. I found that if I could, my dream life was where my passions and my purpose really met the needs and desires and pains of my clients, right? How I could help them
Mhm.
transform. So that's when I really got into doing retreats around the world, and I love to travel. So it's like, okay, Thailand, Bali, let's try all these different countries. And then ultimately I moved to Costa Rica, which was a really big shift for me out of the US. I moved to Costa Rica and opened a wellness center, which you probably saw part of that journey if you've been
Mhm.
following me for a while. I was down there for 7 years, and along the journey, just kept picking up things that were really helping me along my healing path and my own awakening journey, and so just kinda started putting all of those elements into my retreats, and then I was offering yoga teacher trainings as well because, I had so many people who were like, "I want to know how to build a business like yours," and that's really what got me into business coaching is that I had so many people witnessing my lifestyle in Costa Rica, seeing the retreats I was running, seeing what I was doing as a teacher and saying, I want that. How do I create that? And I was like, well, I'm not a business expert. I didn't go to like business school or anything, but I've done this
Mhm.
on my own. I can show you what I know and I can teach you social media and blogging and all the things that really got me here. And so that's what started kind of the business coaching side of things. Um,
That's beautiful.
yeah. Yeah.
So it's so interesting because I in my meditation this morning it was just I heard this message about doing what you love.
Yeah.
How important it is to
So
do what
important.
you love. And one of the things that I can feel from you is you're very clear and you're very directed,
Hmm.
self-directed.
Hmm.
So that's such an important component when you're a solopreneur.
Yeah, and I've had chapters where I mean, this last couple years was such a dark night of the soul for me where I really struggled to feel on purpose. I struggled to know what I wanted to be doing or what I wanted to be focusing on and was really losing myself. I lost myself in motherhood, I lost myself in my marriage to some degree. There was a lot of layers that I had to kind of dig through to get to where I am now on the other side of that and going, okay, Amber's back. She's like back on purpose and focused and clear. But I think before I had my son, I was really like in that maidenhood boss babe kind of mentality. Like, I got
Mm.
this, I'm on purpose, I'm helping women, I'm transforming lives. And then once I became a mom, I mean, things just shifted so radically as they do.
Oh, yeah.
And I just wanted to take a break from all that to see if I could really focus on motherhood and get the most out of, being a mama for those first 3-4 years of raising my son. And I don't regret doing that 1 second, but it did lead to me feeling quite lost
Yeah.
in my purpose outside of my son. Because of course your kids can be a great purpose, but I think what I've learned by going through motherhood is that I need something outside of my family that's purpose driven
Mhm.
for me. That's a
Mhm.
passion. That's something that I'm doing that's impacting on a bigger level beyond my family. That became
Yeah.
very obvious to me recently, like in the last year or two.
That's wonderful that you had
Yeah.
that realization. Yeah, I think that it's very natural to lose yourself both in marriage
Yeah.
and in motherhood. I think it happens. It just you meet somebody and you fall in love and you think this is it and this is so great. And another aspect, I think of this as I'm a hypnotherapist as well, and I do
Oh,
parts hypnotherapy. And
oh,
there's
amazing. I love parts work. I just was doing a lot of
right,
internal family systems work this last year.
yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes. And there's different parts of us, and there's different aspects. Then I truly believe that when you get married, you move from one part of yourself into another part, and then when you become a mom, you have that aspect that
Hmm.
gets birthed within you.
Right.
And then as your child grows, all of a sudden you're faced with you again. It's like, oh, hello, here
Right.
you are.
You've been there the whole time, just under
Yeah,
under
yeah,
the motherhood like
yeah.
umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I remember one of the things I remember you sharing about is your explant,
Yes.
um,
Mhm.
which I would love for you to share with the women that are listening.
Yeah.
That whole journey from implant
Mhm.
to I'm dancing around your marriage. I just want to let you know because I respect the tenderness of the
Yeah.
experience, and
Yeah.
everybody's experience is very valid and all that. So I just want to let you know that, and for everybody listening. So, but I know that you got implants and then you did the explant. So
Yes.
can you speak about that journey?
For sure. Yeah. So I got implants put in when I was 18, 19 years old, and I was really doing it to feel more womanly in my own body, feel more confident. I had like size A, breasts, and
Right.
really thought, there's no changing this for me. Like if I want to experience something different, like implants are the only way. And at the time they were like really popular for whatever reason.
Right.
Very popular. The kind of Victoria's Secret body was very popular at the time. So a lot of friends were getting implants. It was just kind of the thing. Graduation presents, which honestly, looking back, I'm like, oh my god, what was I doing? But I didn't know any better, and that was just part of my path. But I didn't know the risks involved, like I wasn't really fully informed on like, oh hey, these can cause cancer and autoimmune diseases, and they leach 40 plus chemicals and heavy metals into your body. Like I had no
Mm,
idea that was what was I was stepping into.
right.
So 18 years goes by. You're supposed to replace them every 10 years. I didn't because I was terrified to go under the knife. After I went under the knife for the first surgery, I was like, this is terrifying and traumatizing. I'm not. So I didn't for 10 years. You're supposed to change them every 10 years. So I get to the 18-year mark, and this is when I start to get really sick. And at this point,
Mm,
I had known that breast implant illness was a thing. I had friends who were like, hey, Amber, like I went through this, like just beware, and I was like, yeah. Like I've been really lucky. Like I haven't had any problem with mine. Like I'm sorry you went through that, but I just kind of just brushed it off, right? And man, did I eat my words because like a couple years later, after I had my son, which was, I had already gotten the intuitive hit, like these need to come out, and I need to face my fear and just get it done. But I wanted to wait until I had breastfed my son fully.
mhm,
So
mhm.
breastfed him for a year. Once he was done breastfeeding, then I was like, okay, now's the time. But that's when I started to get really sick. So it's actually kind of right on time. So the things I was feeling in terms of symptoms, because of course, breast implant illness can be a vast array of different symptoms. There's like 50 plus symptoms. And most women who have breast implant illness have like 15 of them, 15 to 20. They have a ton of symptoms. So for me, it looked like severe anxiety to the point that I was like literally afraid to leave the house. I was
Wow.
afraid to close my eyes at night. Like that level of anxiety is something I would never wish on anyone. It is very much a living hell. It's
Yeah.
really, really scary. I didn't know what was happening to me either, which was I think
Mhm.
the scarier part is that you go to a doctor and they're like, well, your blood work looks fine. And we don't know. Like, and that, so in my experience, I thought maybe this is just postpartum anxiety. Cause again, I
Mhm.
had just finished breastfeeding. My hormones had gone through a big shift. And so I went to a functional medicine doctor and she was looking at my markers and she's like, Amber, these are signs of breast implant illness. And I said, really? Tell me more. And she's
Wow.
like, well, your lymphocytes are really high and your blood platelet levels are really low. And that tells me that your body has been fighting something. Your immune system has been fighting something for a very long time. This is not like an acute infection. This is like a long-term war that your system's having with these implants. And we see this most often with implants. So it was severe anxiety, of course, severe depression, chronic fatigue because I couldn't function. I was getting so depressed because I literally had no energy. My son was also a year old at this point, so I couldn't even function as a mother. I would just be kind of laid out all day, and then when my nanny left in the afternoon, I'd have my son for a couple hours before my husband would take over. And so that was really all I had energy for. And then food, I stopped being able to digest food. So the very few bland foods that I could eat weren't digesting well. They literally would just go right through me, which
Mm.
was also very unnerving because I'm like, I'm losing weight. I couldn't control like how much I dropped 17 pounds in like a couple month period of time. And I'm already a naturally thin person. This was like 17 pounds off my frame is a lot. I looked very, very, very scary thin. I remember looking in the mirror and going, I look like a skeleton. I'm just terrified of what's happening. I don't know
Yes.
how to stop it from happening. And so finally, once I had that meeting with the functional medicine doctor, I was like, that's it. I'm booking the surgery. So surgery was booked a couple months out with a surgeon, went through explant, which was honestly a very traumatic experience for me. It's not for everybody. For me, it was because of the surgeon and things that happened. But the healing process was really intense for me. And that just had a lot to do with like the physical issues I was having. I was so sick going under the knife. And then my nervous system was just very much out of whack for like the next year.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with like sometimes the surgery like it's so invasive into all of your nervous system and your fascial networks and your lymph nodes and stuff up here that it can cause problems sometimes. So surgeries can cause problems. So around that time I started working with I was doing somatic experiencing, EMDR work, trying to help my nervous system come back into some level of balance. I started doing internal family systems work as well,
Mhm.
trying all these different modalities, trying to get myself regulated again and get
Right.
myself back to a state of health. And so it took me about a year post explant to feel normal again. But ultimately, all of my acute symptoms, like the anxiety, depression, and like digestive stuff, went away really quickly. So I knew that the implants were a big root to why I was so sick. But I didn't know that going into surgery. I was praying that this was the root to what was going on because if it wasn't, then I didn't really know what else to do. Um,
Right. Right.
but my functional medicine doctor was like, look, Amber, you have a genetic predisposition to lupus. And if you continued to keep these implants in, you would have developed full blown lupus. You would have had the symptoms of lupus, which is horrible. It's like crazy joint pain and really bad flare ups and fevers and things like that. So I'm really grateful that a year out, my autoimmunity markers went way down just naturally on their own. So I knew that,
Wonderful.
that the implants were a huge part of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a journey. What
Yeah.
a journey. That isn't, you don't hear people speaking about it. And there is such a fixation about that. I really understand. I know I was saying, like I grew up with an older brother and it was just
Yeah.
such a fixation. Um, so do you feel like some of that maybe it was also um, an internal call in terms of your marriage, like it was something that was all of these symptoms were coming up because it wasn't right, but you know how sometimes you may not be able to take the action until you have no other choice and you have to take the action.
That's right. Yeah, so with the explant was such a huge mental emotional shift as well for me because I went from having this identity around my implants for 18 years, my entire sexual identity, like entire sexual life was with implants. And so all of a sudden the implants are gone. I don't even really know how do I operate without them? I feel like a big piece of me is missing. And then intimacy with my husband was very awkward initially because I felt very like my this shield of this false confidence I had with the implants was gone. And I was left with like this like little 13-year-old Amber being like, "Oh, I'm like so awkward and I feel so insecure about my chest again. Like that version of me came online again with that was like, whoa, this is very, my self-esteem just really plummeted. And so
Yeah.
then my intimacy with my husband got really awkward. And I'm like, dude, you love me without my implants? There's just all this kind of questioning around. Again, this is all my own inner stuff. Cause for him, like it didn't matter. But for me, I was going through all of this stuff. Like, will he love me the same if I don't have the
Yeah.
implants? And so, so anyway, but yeah, I think in general, my marriage was an added challenge on top of all of this. So him and I were at odds for a couple years, and so that
Mm.
created a lot of extra stress on my nervous system and on my health as well. And so that was just like another layer. So once I got better, things got better in our relationship, but ultimately we did decide to divorce.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
amazing how, our that book, the body keeps the score, your body
Yes.
knows. I mean, it's really quite amazing how at some point anybody can deny, they can lie to themselves, but at some point you can't.
No.
You have to be
No.
unconscious
Like
to not.
yeah, like I really felt like my body was really screaming at me. My body and intuition were screaming at me like this has to end. This marriage is not right for you. This is the end point for all of these reasons. This is the end
Yeah.
point. And
Yeah.
but the had I really really listened to my intuition and my body from the get-go, I wouldn't have stayed so long. But I kept just like, "Oh, I'm going to keep again self-sacrificing, betraying, contorting, trying to make things work. Let me just try a little harder. Let me just do more therapy. Let me just do more of internal work on myself in order to make this work. When in actuality, what I really needed to do was leave,
Yeah.
you know?
I really, it's interesting. I really can identify, personally, and then also with the women that I've counseled that I wish I would have done this sooner. I wish I
Yeah.
would have honored myself sooner. And I think it ties into what you just said about the self-abandonment,
Yeah.
that self-doubt. If
Yeah.
you, especially if you're brought up in a home where, if either of your parents were super critical or questioning of what you were doing, or had these very unrealistic expectations of how you were supposed to be, then
Right.
you have this built in. And plus, being a competitive performer,
Right.
you're operating at a whole, most people don't really understand what that means when you have to rise to that kind of level.
Right.
You have to deny a lot of stuff that's going on because you got to be in that moment.
That's it. That's so true. I mean, I can think of so many times in my dance training growing up where it's like, okay, you've got a stomach flu. Oh, well, you need to perform, get on the stage. Like, there are just so many examples of how, as dancers, we had to bypass our injuries, like our physical pain, our mental, emotional pain, in order to just get up and the show must go on. And
Yeah.
while some might think that's great training, to some degree, it is the discipline and the follow through and all that. It's great and it's damaging. It's very damaging if you don't feel like you have autonomy over your body and over what you can and can't do in any given moment because you need to be performing all the time. Like that's just, it's really
Yeah.
damaging.
Yeah. And it's such a testament to who you are and how um, greatly you help other women, that you've done all the inner work. Because I know for me there was a disconnect between the intellect and the feeling.
Yeah.
Even though I'm an emotional sensitive person,
Right.
there was kind of this disconnect, like, well, what are you feeling? I don't know, I'm not sure. What am I feeling?
Sure.
What is this going on?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, for me, I'm a 3-5 manifesting generator. And so much of my, let's say, makeup, are you also 3-5?
Generator.
Generator. Uh-huh. So for me, like the way that my life is
Amazing.
really designed, or the structure of my system, is to trial and error and fail. And then all the lessons I learn, I then give back and serve and teach others. And that so has been my life. Like I'm very much of this experimenter who tries and fails and succeeds at all these different things. And I'm like, here's all the wisdom that I've gained from that. So I feel like I've
Mhm.
been through a lot in order to be able to better hold space for people going through a lot. Because I don't think
Yes.
like yourself, you can't be a great space holder, a great therapist, a great healer, a great anything unless you've walked the talk. You've been through the hell, you've been through the trenches, you've been through the initiations, and then you can really then help people. Because I think back to when I was younger, and just I was younger, I didn't have the life experience. So I'm like trying to help people who are anxious and depressed, and I'm like, I've never experienced anxiety or depression. Now I have, and now I can go, I've been there. It's hell, and I know how to help you out of it because had to get myself out of it,
Right.
But I feel like you really have to have the lived experience to be able to teach.
Yes, I think a lot of that. I came up with a phrase um, when I finally woke up to, wow, it is that I have experiences that what what you judge, you will become.
Mm,
Because when I was younger and I hadn't experienced certain things and I didn't have a lot of patience and I would judge it. And then I went through a really radical health challenge. And I had a young child and I was not very functional, and all those things. And so, even though I knew what it was like to injure yourself and then have to, get back on your feet and stuff, I'd never experienced that. So it gave me
right,
this layer and this understanding, this compassion for
right.
what other people go through instead of, and I'm exaggerating truly, like snapping my fingers, like, come on, get over it. It's like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that doesn't happen. And so being able to be of service, I mean, you know, when you have access to the empathy and compassion that you do from your own lived experience, and then you can really help other people transform and transmute from where they were into where they want to be.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
think, and I don't know if you experienced this too, Wendy, where like you have people around you when you're going through those tough experiences, they just don't know how to hold space for it. They don't know how to engage with you because they've never been through something like that. And so they don't know how to meet you and they don't know how to support you. And you're just like, like I need someone who gets me. And that's why we end up relying on people who are going through similar things when we're going through them to like get us through, or people who've been through them, because like we need people who get it.
oh my God, you said
Yeah.
it's so true. It's so frustrating. And especially if you're somebody who's sensitive and vulnerable to self-doubt or self-criticism,
Right.
and you're around people that are like, come on, just, just move on. Just,
Right.
just think your way to a better feeling thought. And you're like,
Yeah.
ha,
Just think
just stop.
this is all your mindset. You just need to think more
Yes,
positive, love and light thoughts.
yes,
And I'm just like, I'm gonna wring your neck right now. That is not gonna help me
exactly.
right now.
Exactly. Yes, I absolutely identify with that. Yeah. It's such a balance, right? But it's what I have found, ironically, I don't know if you found that, is I had this affinity for people that didn't understand what I was going through.
Mm,
I would be attracted to the people that were not compassionate or not empathetic because
mm.
this part of me didn't want to feel what I was feeling.
Oh, interesting. So you found yourself like drawn to people that would not see or support or yeah, or
Yeah,
wow,
absolutely.
interesting. Wow.
Because that's what I grew up with.
Right, right, right. So you're just repeating patterns. Yeah.
So I was kind of like, oh, but this feels familiar to me. Come on, can be all that, and
Yeah.
being engaged in a practice, in a spiritual practice around new thought, and all those kinds of print. Like I really do believe in spiritual principle and universal laws, but
Yeah.
I'm so it's there's such an emotional connection, an emotional spiritual connection, like what you went through with what
Yeah.
the explant, and how it really impacted all these different levels and what I went through. And I don't know if I would want to go through that again,
Yeah.
but
You would never want to go through again.
right, I don't know if I would want to go through that again.
I'm like, take me off the planet before I have to. I'll come back in a different body. Let's do this again, different time.
Yeah, like really, I think sometimes people don't, that whole idea of I would never, never to say never, but I never really thought of taking an action to end my life, but I thought about
Yeah,
what it would be like to no longer be here and feel the searing
yeah.
pain that I felt.
I've been there. I've been there too, and all the
Yeah,
different things I've been through. It's like you get those days where you're just like, it would just be so much easier for me to just not be here and be experiencing
right,
this. And
right.
am I going to get through this and all that to get on your knees in that low of a deep dark space? Like, and I think, yeah, you can only help people going through that if you've been there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't. I I absolutely agree. And there's some things that I think I don't need to know what it's like to lose a child to help somebody who's
Exactly.
lost
I
a
agree,
child,
agreed, yeah.
right? I don't need to
Yeah.
know, you know,
No, but
there's
the
tons of stuff.
grief, knowing grief, yes.
Yes, there's tons of stuff that I have experienced that,
Yeah.
you know, I've sat at the bedside of people making their transition. I've counseled people whose children have been, you know,
Wow.
were murdered, or, you know, they OD'd or something. And I can hold space, and I don't
Yeah.
need to experience that.
Yeah, agree.
So, but the thing is, there's no competition in grief.
That's
There's
it.
none.
Grief is yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's no
Right.
competition in that.
Yeah. So, but it's wonderful to be able to be in the company of somebody who doesn't judge you and make you wrong or cut you off, or,
Right,
you know,
right,
be like, oh my God, you're talking about that again. Like, aren't
right.
you over that by now?
Yes,
And
yes.
yet, the thing that's so ironic about that is that if you're not looking at it, right, you're not addressing it, it's addressing you because it's showing up
That's
in
it,
your
that's
life,
it.
right?
Yeah,
In your
yeah,
relationships, in your
yes.
work, how you're, you know, visible, what you're doing. I How did you go within yourself
Mhm.
to be so honest on social media? Where does that come from?
For me, it comes from, a period of time when I really was out of integrity with myself. And it
Ah,
also comes from being betrayed a lot. And just knowing the power of being honest and high integrity and being transparent. So, this last, like, 3 years has been deep, deep betrayal. Like, the initiations I've been through have been like, betrayal I never anticipated I'd ever experience in my life, like, really intense betrayal with my husband, with, like, our friend group, with, like, just so there's so many examples of betrayal that I've experienced with the outer extended community here in Austin. So much betrayal that is really but within all of that, what I learned was like how I was betraying myself, right?
yes.
And so much of my work has been in the last 3 years, 3 4 years has been around um, witnessing the lack of integrity externally, right? With COVID and all of the propaganda and the
Mm,
madness around all of that, like the lack of integrity in our leaders. So I feel like there's an external collective aspect of this happening too. But internally, I was going through, me coming into more integrity with myself by explanting, which is what I wanted to do to be my most authentic self and natural self and really get rid of these fake things that were really no
right,
longer relevant to me or
right,
felt authentic and real. So there was like me coming into integrity with myself and my body, and then me coming into integrity with like, maybe this marriage isn't the right fit for me. Maybe these
mm,
friends aren't the right, and me really having to listen and honor my inner voice saying, like, you've been betraying and abandoning yourself in all these ways, and me waking up to all of that and going, okay, I get to choose me now. I have to really like stop betraying myself and stop betraying the people around me, and they'll stop betraying me. Right? We all need to stop betraying
right,
each other.
right,
But I can speak to, like, back in my early 20s when I was going through bulimia, I was front facing as this, holistic nutrition coach and teaching yoga and teaching all these modalities externally, but I was the performer. So I was the perfect performer that had the perfect physique and the perfect blog post and the perfect Instagram post, but inside I was battling bulimia. And so I had this front facing facade that everything's fine, everything's perfect, because that's how I was trained to be.
right.
But all of that perfectionism and that lack of feeling my emotion was destroying me. And actually, I think is what caused the bulimia. And so when I got on the other side of the bulimia, because during that period of time, I was felt so out of integrity with myself, because here I
Mhm.
was front facing, lying to everybody, my clients, my family. Nobody knew I was bulimic, nobody, for 5 years.
Wow.
I was really good at hiding it because I felt so much shame and so much guilt around why
Yeah.
I was literally self-destructive. I was doing this to myself. I knew it was harmful. I knew it was a horrible thing to be doing to myself. And yet I couldn't stop doing it because I had all this external and internal pressure to be this certain way. Right. And so after feeling that lack of congruency inside of myself, that lack of integrity was crushing my soul. And so when I got out of that and was really on my healing journey was when I was like, from now moving forward, I absolutely have to walk my talk. There is no me preaching one thing and doing another. And even early on before I was bulimic, I was writing about health, and even at that time I stopped drinking alcohol because I'm like, I can't be partying on the weekends and then talking about ayurveda in my blog. Like, how out of integrity is that? Because I was like a raging partier at that time. Between like 16 and 21, I was a big drinker, big partier on the weekends, and was dating an alcoholic. Like I just was like in the party scene, and I'm like, how am I? This is so just not okay. So I think for me, there was always this internal metronome of like, this isn't, it's not okay to be this out of alignment with what you
Mm,
do and who you are. This is just not serving you. And so once
mhm,
I got on the other side of bulimia, it became a very real thing for me where I was like, I'm only going to practice what I preach. There is
mhm.
no, otherwise I suffer
Right.
and other people suffer because of course I'm also attracting the wrong relationships, the wrong clients when I'm not
Right.
myself, when I'm not being authentically myself and I'm not being transparent and honest, then I'm not attracting the right people either. And I learned that the hard way through business. That actually taught, I think business taught me that more than like in romantic relationships. Business taught me that because I found myself attracting clients who expected me to be perfect, and they pedestaled me and idolized me and had me on this perfect pedestal. And then when I would falter, as every human does, it's like, oh, like, then they'd get mad at me. Like, why, oh my God. I'm like, y'all, I'm human too. Take me off this pedestal. But I was so good at performing and so good at like love and light and everything's fine. And yeah, everything's awesome. Like, and so people just didn't expect me to be human when I'd have a down day. Why is she sad? What's going on? Like, so that's
Right.
when I really, and then I just learned over time, like in my business, I need to be real and I
Mhm.
will attract real people. I'll attract the people who love me for me, not just this facade that I'm putting on.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. You spoke so eloquently about the need for more of that authenticity because it comes through in your posts,
Thank you so much.
just reading about what you've been through. And I think being in any relationship and an ending, it's a grief. It's a period of grief and mourning, and then you move on, hopefully.
Yeah.
um, but being in a public, it gets a little more tricky because people are drawn to you because of your public
Yes.
persona, but then to pull back and be like, this is me. Um,
Totally.
I am curious with the polarization that exists in our society today, which is really, it's so disheartening to me to see this
Same.
weaponizing and polarization. Do you find that that exists for you with your business today? And how do you deal with that?
For me, I have strong stances on things and I'll share openly about it. I think I tend to be very nuanced in how I think about things because I don't want to be black or white thinking. I
Right.
try, though let's say for example, like voting Trump, for example, this last election, like I'm going to say that I'm voting for him, not to say that I agree with everything he's ever said or done, that I agree with every policy he's ever said or, written or done.
Mhm.
But that I thought he was a better choice this time around. And some hearing that might think I'm like a radical, right wing conservative, whatever. And, they want to put you in this box. And there's so many times. And also like something else that's been going on a lot is like this new age versus Christianity thing that's happening right now, where there's like all of this demonizing of new age practices. All these new Christians are coming online. And it's just been very interesting. I've been getting a lot of kickback on like the fact that I practice yoga and meditation, and they're like those are demonic things, and I'm like, these are ancient practices. I can't. I'm like really. So there are things that I talk about, the things that I stand on, and I'm like, these are my principles, these are my values, these are the things I stand on right now, and that can change. But like, you're not going to tell me that yoga is demonic. I'm sorry. Like it's not going to work for me. Like I'm going to have something to say about that. So I think for me, I've had to learn over time how to stand my ground and speak my truth and not be divisive and polarizing.
Right.
And sometimes I fail at that and sometimes I do well at it. But I think that there's a dance that you got to find online where because there's always going to be haters, there's always going to be trolls, there's always going to be people who have a really strong opinion, who want to battle you and fight you in the DMs or in the comments. And you have to pick and choose, is this worth my time and energy?
Mhm.
And so a lot of times I just won't respond if someone's being really insulting or they're being like really nasty. I'll just block them immediately if they're being insulting. I won't engage with their comments. I'll delete them, block them. But then also, I'm very much open to having dialogue about all the things. And so I'm open. As people are respectful, I'm open to having the dialogue. I'm open to discussing my point of view. But if you're coming at me with passive aggressiveness or just straight up insulting me, like I'm not going to engage. So I've had to learn boundaries around that. I also call out people in my audience. I'm like, hey, this behavior isn't okay with me. Like, I'm a person too. This is my page. If you want to come on if you want to preach about something and insult me and attack me, like, this isn't where it's going to happen. You can preach about your things on your page, like I'm doing here. I'm going to talk about my things here that I feel passionate about. But
Yeah.
like, that's what your page is for. If you feel really passionate about all these things, please use your platform. But don't come to me and tell me what I shouldn't be talking about. I have a major issue with people telling me what I can and can't talk about on my own page, because I'm like,
Yes.
this is freedom of speech, y'all. Come on.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that there's so much polarization online right now, and so what I've had to learn to do is pick and choose what do I really want to speak about, and what is just
Mhm.
fueling the fire of divide and conquer, and kind of the agenda that's unfolding right now. And I see the people online who are really niching themselves and pigeonholing themselves in one radical thing. And then they just spend all their time attacking the other side. And it's like, okay, well, you might get more comments, you might get more views on that. But like, is that helping society at large? I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so. I think it's creating more divide and polarization that's necessary. So I think you got to figure out where you land on that when you're online.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that very much. I do. It's a wild time.
It is so wild. Like, I'm watching this stuff happening with like the government right now, and I'm just sitting back. I don't even engage with it. I'll read it occasionally, but I don't even spend my energy getting invested in it or getting riled up about it. It just,
Yeah.
at this point, we've seen so much over the last 4 years. It seems like such a waste of time and energy to get in there and try to understand all the aspects and then fight about it. And then it's like, just okay. I got to focus on making money, taking care of my son, taking care of myself, being outside. Like, let me focus on the things that matter, that are right in front of me, that I have control over. Because I do not have
Yeah,
control over Trump and Elon Musk. I just don't. I can bitch
I
about it
know.
all day online, but I do not have control over it.
Yeah.
So what do I have control over? You know?
Exactly. Yes. And yes, yeah, agree. Because we have, like, I'm in California.
Yes.
So now we have the National Guard. We have this, which
Yes.
I think it's so sad to me that people that have been here, you know, risk having the risk of being torn from their families, like, like that's, touches me.
Yeah.
And I think about, all of a sudden Newsom is being the good guy, and I'm like, wait, I have questions about this. And then, was it necessary to call in the National Guard, and why are so it's this whole, uh, it feels like political theater.
It
We've
does.
got,
It feels like theater to me.
we've got Elon and Trump fighting, and then we have what's happening in the Middle East, and then we have
Right.
now the immigration, and what else are we going to have? Let's see, what else can we pull in? Like, it's like this
All of the
circus.
aliens, they're coming in next. Like, it's like, God, the
Out.
next. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the Project Bluebeam. I'm waiting for the fake aircraft to come. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for something, because that's it. You just sit back and eat popcorn. You're like, this is a show. This is the show. I'm enjoying the show. But yeah, I think it's laughable at this point how much it
Yeah.
feels like political theater.
Well, that's why it's ironic that you speak to the whole idea of the spiritual, New Age. Like,
Yeah.
I, I'm a New Thought minister, so my teachings come, my principles, spiritual principles, come from the teachings and the application of universal principles, all the distillation from the world's religions, and
Wow. Love
Yeshua. I
that.
call him Yeshua, because back then they didn't have the name Jesus, but like, hey, that's okay. But based on the teachings of this great
Right.
man. And so I think about, when I read things and they say, well, that's demonic. And I'm like, really? That's been around since, like, beginning of civilization. I'm not
Yeah.
sure where you're coming from with that. And
Yes.
I often say that, this man who we're still following, talking about 2000 years later, there's no way he said, when he very, very, very famously said, love thy brother as thyself, love thy sister as thyself. He didn't have like a disclaimer,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like,
Not these
only
kind.
right, right. As long as they
Yeah.
so So I really appreciate that. You're just doing that because yoga's been around, prayer's been around, people that
Meditation.
are prophets and prophesy and intuition. That's your mother's intuition is a
Right.
real thing. It is not some like fake woo woo. It's real.
Oh
We're
my God.
connected to our babies.
I really wish that we could get men to understand that, because I feel like men still don't fully grasp like how the intuition is so dead on with mothers. Like
Yeah,
I think my ex would just be like, he just was baffled by it. He's like, how do you always know what to, I'm like, because I just know. Like there, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like we're telepathic. I have no I don't know. I don't know. But it's here. So I'm doing it. But I just feel like
right,
men, because they don't experience it, they don't know what it is, and they're like baffled by it.
right. And yet the irony of that is that uh, so many men are guided. They're actually led by their intuition.
Sure, sure, of
But they
course.
don't even know, they're not sure that they don't know how to say, "Oh, that's my intuition," that's like,
Right, right.
"That's my gut instinct, that's my instinct." You're like, "Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, okay,
Everyone
thank
has
you."
intuition, including men,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly, but I love what
Mhm.
you're saying, yeah. So is there anything that you would like to share with any new moms or moms um, that you have learned along your journey, or anything about your business that you're working on right now that you would like to share?
Um, I think for new moms and those who are, on the motherhood journey, I'd say that the biggest thing you can do for yourself and your kids is trust your intuition, and do what you feel most called to do, and that includes protecting them in the ways that you feel they need to be protected, and standing up for them. And also, yeah, I think that it's really easy with there's a lot of pressure from the outside world to do what everyone's expecting you to do. Like, okay, by this stage, they need to be walking. By this stage, they need to be eating solid foods. By this stage, it's like there's just this timeline that these kids need to be on. And that's something I've been very aware of, is like my son was later to talk. And the amount of pressure I got from people saying he should be taught, like it was so intense. And I remember just being like, he's gonna talk, y'all. He's not just gonna not talk. Like he's gonna talk. Let's just be patient. But there's so much external pressure to for your kids to fit into a mold and a system. And so you will often have to be like, this is what I want this is what I think is best. This is what I want for our kids or my kid. And this is what we're gonna do. And you gotta just ignore all the noise and do what you think is best. And I think that's the greatest advice you can give any mother, is to just like do what you think is best.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Because you know better
Yes,
than anyone else what your kids need.
I so agree.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. So, how can people reach you?
You guys can find me at my website, amberleesky.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, it's at amberlee.sky. So there's a dot in there after Lee. And yeah, I would love to connect with you guys there. I'm always really active in the comments and the DMs. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your wisdom, and thank you for being a way shower and really speaking so honestly about what you've been through, what wisdom you have, what you're learning, and your joy. It's great to see your joy like at the water park with
Yeah.
wildlife. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. This is so beautiful. I look forward to sharing this conversation.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, everyone. So, you know what I'm going to tell you now. Remember, you are loved beyond description, powerful beyond measure, and a force for good in the world. So, go forth and share your magic, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.